Let's go wide-eyed. These massive ultra-fast lenses exceed the lens speed of the human eyes by far and create an unreal shallow depth of field. The Zone lenses are the first f/0.95 Cine lenses with a PL mount, and we have a whole set here to test for you. A lens speed of f/0.95 can turn the dimmest light into sirens that call through the darkness, and the extreme narrow depth of field transforms the world into a surreal dream. A look that you can practically only get from very large formats or ultra-fast lenses like the Zhongyi Zone. The Zone are a set of T1 cineprimes that cover full-frame sensors, and they are the first and only ultra-fast lenses with PL mounts, making them usable on any Cine camera, including analog 35mm and Vista Vision. In this episode, we explain the physics behind lens speed and take you on a short trip to the moon and back, where Stanley Kubrick earned an Academy Award shooting Barry Lyndon with ultra-fast lenses. We explain why a T1 lens will give you the shallow depth of field that you see in Christopher Nolans IMAX shots. To test the Zone cineprimes, we are going to take them into the witch forest on a dreamy night session, hunting will-o'-the-wisps. With the experience we got from that, we will show you how to tame the beast and turn the Zone lenses into practical setups. That includes the rigging to more or less compact setups, and we are having a look if LiDAR-based autofocus can take the edge of the razor-sharp depth of field. Let there be light. When you look through a camera, you usually have the feeling that your image is not as bright as what you see with your own eyes, unless you bump the ISO into a range where the image gets very ugly. So that has a lot to do with the optics of your camera. A human eye has around f2 when the iris is wide open. Owl eyes are a stop faster with around f1.4, and you might have lenses in that speed in your arsenal already. With f/0.95, the Zone cineprimes are a full stop faster than that. And while the difference doesn't sound that dramatic, stops work exponentially. And that means that this lens gets 4 times the light on the sensor that your eyes get on your retina. You film with these lenses at f/0.95 or their measured transmission of T1 and the normal base ISO of 800. A dim room suddenly almost gets too bright. You have to completely rethink lighting. Now, in a time where many cameras look very good at an astronomical ISO, that doesn't seem like a big deal. But putting that together, you gain possibilities that were simply out of reach, even if you're using super speed lenses. With the Zone, you have twice the amount of light to work with. Think about filming slow motion at candlelight. With a T1 Zone lens, that might be in reach. But even without considering the brightness of ultra-fast cineprimes, f/0.95 on full frame delivers a very narrow depth of field. So narrow that you usually only get that with large format cameras. The depth of field is so narrow that it's equivalent to the one of the legendary Zeiss planar f/0.7 when used on 35mm film cameras. And it happens to be also equivalent to an IMAX camera with an f2 lens. These dreamy sequences of The Odyssey were shot on IMAX, which is the same as 6x7 medium format film. For Oppenheimer, Nolan used lenses with f1.9 speed, and that in combination with a large format creates the surreal narrow depth of field. But you don't need a large format for the narrow depth of field. The equivalency of lenses describes what focal length and f-stop will create the exact same depth of field and field of view on any given format. Vastly different formats can have the same look, from Micro Four Third over full frame IMAX up to large format photography, very simply because they use a lens with the same sized entrance pupil. If one wanted to recreate this narrow depth of field on a full frame camera, one would need a lens that is 2 stops faster. So f/0.95. And this is why a T1 lens can give you the look of an IMAX camera. Of course, there are other advantages of larger formats, like a higher potential resolution due to the Nyquist limit, but we don't want to bore you to tears. And these factors have a very limited impact on the look of an image. We explored an impossible f/0.3 lens speed by using the principle of lens equivalency and an 8x10 intermediate image in our episode f/0.3 The Impossible Lens. We shot some really unique footage with the camera we built for this project and explain a lot about the underlying theory. Check it out, link is in the corner. The bigger the entrance pupil is, the more glass is in the lens, making ultra-fast lenses potentially big and heavy. With Super 35 lenses, this remains relatively civil, like this f/0.85 Ebolux that is still compact but weighs over a kilogram. With ultra-fast lenses designed for 6x7 medium format or IMAX by cinema standard, it gets monstrous, like this f/0.7 Zeiss Biotard shows. It weighs 6 kilograms. We shot on this lens using a digital full-frame camera, and we explored the subject of ultra-fast lenses much deeper than we will here today. If you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the corner. We learned the hard way that a f number of f/0.7 also means that the lens has to be very close to the sensor to reach infinity. We had to take the sensor out of the camera and rig it on a macro slider to focus. Not for the faint of heart. Which brings us to Stanley Kubrick and the Academy Award for Cinematography. Stanley Kubrick had the vision to shoot the night scenes in his 1975 film Barry Lyndon only with candlelight to resemble contemporary paintings. With modern cameras and a base ISO of 800, this task seems not that daunting. But in 1975, film stock had 100 ISO, and even when pushing it in development to 200 ISO, candlelight isn't nearly bright enough. The trick was to use canons with 3 wicks, a lot of reflectors out of frame, and the fastest lens on the planet. The Zeiss Planar f/0.7 that Zeiss developed for the Apollo project. Kubrick acquired 3 of the planars from Zeiss and modified one to a 36.5mm using a wide-angle adapter. Kubrick used the planar for its brightness and not for the shallow depth of field. But still, especially that look made Barry Lyndon so dreamy. He also modified his personal camera to fit the ultra-short 7mm flange required by the planar to reach infinity. But without the mirror, that meant they couldn't see what they were filming. What really matters is that they pulled it off, and it's exactly why Barry Lyndon got the Academy Award for Cinematography. Barry Lyndon was shot on 35mm film, half the size of full frame. The equivalent lens on a full frame would be a 75mm f1, like the one right here. With a modern camera and the Zone Cineprimes, shooting Barry Lyndon would have been much easier. The important takeaway from this chapter is that ultra-fast lenses like these Zone Cineprimes can be used to emulate a large format look, create super shallow depth of field, and to maximize the available light. But enough of theory and history, let us give you a quick overview of the specs and features of the Zone lenses. Like mentioned, ultra-fast lenses require a lot of glass, and that makes them large and heavy. But even by ultra-fast lens standards, the Zone are giants. This is a DZO film ALIS that is already pretty big and heavy, but it's dwarfed by a Zone lens. And that is true for the weight as well. The Zone Cineprimes weigh around 2.8 kg, so it wouldn't be a first choice for handheld work. Well, challenge accepted. We will talk more about that in a later chapter, Taming the Beast. All Zone focal lengths are 132mm wide and 137.8mm long. Gear positions are unified and scales are metric as well as imperial. The front diameter is 114mm and the lenses have 110mm filter threads. The iris is huge and has 16 rounded blades for circular bokeh. Focal throw is a long 270 degrees. Coverage is full frame plus, so even slightly oversized sensors like the Alexa LF and the Red V-Raptor Vista Vision sensors are within limits. By default, the Zone comes with a PL mount, but a user-exchangeable EF mount is included. By the way, Zhongyi has teased most Zone focal lengths, so I expect something like a 24mm and a 100mm to complete the set. At release of this episode, the Zone Cineprimes are on Indiegogo and you can back the campaign to get a deal. After the campaign has ended, retail price for a single focal length will be $2,499 and a 3-lens set will go for $6,999. What is out there that one could compare the Zone lenses to? Ultra-fast lenses are really rare. The only real full-frame ultra-fast lenses that come in a set are the Laowa Argus with 28, 35 and 45mm focal length. Nothing longer, and they're only available in E, Z and RF mounts. Sorry Alexa. The vintage Canon Dream lens is out there too, in a rehoused version. Not a set though, only the 50mm is T1.1. If you are after a usable T1 set for full-frame cinecams, the Zone are pretty much your only option right now. To see what we can do with the Zone T1, we visited the Witch Forest. According to legend, a witch lived there in the medievals, and the forest was avoided by children until the 60s. People still say that they can hear the hissing of the witch's cauldron at midnight. Is there a better place for some moody lens testing? We use the hours before sunset for the technical stuff, and then it's time for some magic. As usual, we will first let you feel the image as a bit of a moment of zen, and afterwards we go behind the scenes and explain a bit. I really like the dreamy mood that the wider aperture gives us. Really something. Before we're going into shooting something a bit more exciting, let's talk about our experience and how we made the zone work in a practical sense with Taming the Beast. At T1, pulling focus is admittedly a pest. The zone seems to have a helicoid for focusing and not a cam system, which means that the focus is far from linear. A nightmare for the focus puller. While the long focus throw is great for delicate adjustments, it makes it de facto impossible to pull focus with a follow focus, so get a motorized focus solution. We used the Focus Pro on our shoot, which worked good in that regard, but the LiDAR autofocus didn't work as good as we hoped. Even at maximum sensitivity, it always lagged behind too much for such a narrow depth of field. And then again, there were some shots where it worked very well. Like here, keeping the left shoe in focus. Right into the close-up. But you do have to get lucky. For the most part, I have focused with my index finger, which is a pain when you're holding a heavy rig. A 3 kg lens adds a lot to the rig, especially when you want to balance it. The rig we built weighs 10 kilograms, including the battery, and that means you need sliders and fluid heads that can take that kind of load. I strongly recommend a good 7-inch monitor that lets you punch in to confirm critical focus. And the matte box is not just show. Avoiding stray light is a key for a good T1 image. Besides, you better have a nice set of white ND filters if your camera has none built in. At least if you plan to shoot wide open with more than a candle. I know that some of you will be interested in how we rigged lenses with this weight and size, especially making it balanced. Because holding 10 kg unbalanced will introduce a lot of jitter due to fatigue. So handles have to be at the center of gravity, and you're going to need both hands while still allowing focusing with a motor. At the core we have a tilter base plate with an arca mount. We add 30mm rods and an RE rosette where we attach a wooden grip. Later you can balance the rig by sliding the rosette to the center of gravity. We add a V-lock mount to the back. As the rods are too close for conventional lens support, we just add clamps. We add our Lumix S12 that is in a cage with the Arca base plate on the bottom, and we use a DZO film Octopus Mark II PL adapter. Now we attach the Zone T1. With the clamps, we cling to the lens's support holder. This will be sufficient to keep the weight and momentum of the lens mount. We attach a DJI transmission to the V-mount, and we add a mini V-lock battery. The battery will power the camera, the monitor, the transmission, while also serving as a counterweight to the lens. The DJI Focus Pro hand grip will serve as a second handheld point and as a control for a lens motor. We clamp an RE MMB2 matte box upside down on the lens front. We attach a rod and the focus motor and another rod with a LiDAR unit. The matte box basically serves as a clamp for the Focus Pro. For lens changes, you take off the matte box with motor and LiDAR in one go. We add a 7-inch monitor and all the necessary cables. Like mentioned, it is 10 kg, and while that is heavy, its inertia makes handheld shoots quite stable. And the balance makes it surprisingly easy to hold even for hours. Now that we have the technical test done, let's prepare for the fun part, shooting our bewitching short film. I always had the dream of filming a really cool firefly encounter in the forest, something very dreamy, magical. Now, fireflies aren't really that bright, and while you can film their light with extreme high ISO, they are far too dim to illuminate their surroundings. So how about artificial ones? These tiny lights include battery and everything to go into party balloons. Under normal circumstances, these are really not bright enough for filming, but with T1 and a Lumix S12 that is very good in low light and a 360-degree shutter, we might have a chance. So we hang a whole bunch of them in the trees using black thread. About 30 minutes after sunset, we had the perfect lighting. Simply magical. And before you ask, yes, we stuck the lamps in our noses to see. Our headlights were just way too bright and blinded us. The nose lamp, trademark, gives us hands-free illumination. Unfortunately, nothing lasts forever, and we soon realized that we had to substitute the light. Here's an example how our S5 IIX looks in the same lighting. Similar good ISO performance, but with a f2.8 zoom. Completely ugly and unusable. We tried some backlighting with that soft panel you just saw, putting it way back in the forest. By the way, this is 1% power output. But we definitely needed a fill to see Mac's face, and I didn't like the look anyways. So we switched to a bounce into the treetops using a 500 watt COB at about 40% output. That gave us the right balance between darkness and light that we wanted. So let's shoot. Only practical effects were used for the short. Frederick was a will-o'-the-wisp, simply by wielding a C-stand. Quite exhausting, and I think he did a fantastic job to breathe life into the balloon light. Of course, he has a new nickname now, Mothman. These shots are much brighter because I brought them into the light for the BTS. We also showed that we can shoot slow motion in these dim light situations. These shots are 48 frames per second, and these are 120 frames per second. All with noise reduction, of course. By the way, the bokeh in the back are simply the flies attracted by the COB. We matched the movement and the speed with our light. And we had to make sure not to hit the thread with the focus, as that spoils the illusion immediately. When I look at what we got, there is a lot to wish for. We could have done way better with more time and budget. For one night and with a crew of just 2 and a talent, I think there's nothing to complain about, and it taught us what we needed to know to give you what comes now. Our verdict. Flashback. Ultra-fast lenses can be used to emulate a large format look, create super shallow depth of field, and maximize the available light. The Zone Cineprimes are particularly good at that. They can really put you from this world and another without you having to work super hard on your set or lighting, just by reducing the depth of field to something very unusual. You can get beautiful images without having to boost the eyes off your camera into oblivion. Is there something negative to say about them? They are gigantic and heavy, which makes working with them working out with them. There is a price for wielding this amount of glass. It is possible to focus manually with the Zone at T1, but it is hard. That is hardly the Zone's fault, but the nature of shooting with narrow depth of field. Oppenheimer and the Odyssey are notorious for missing focus due to the fast lenses on large format. If you are going into extreme low light, even LiDAR-based systems like the DJI Focus Pro don't work anymore, as the LiDAR camera doesn't see a subject to identify, no matter how much it ups the ISO. The focus fall-off is not the most beautiful with the Zone. The out-of-focus areas show patterns, and of course you can see chromatic aberrations and moderate highlights blooming wide open, as it's to be expected with such a massive entrance pupil. But compared to the Canon Dream lenses, the Zone are clean as can be. The Zone Cineprimes don't try to be light, compact, practical, optically perfect, or cheap. They are as fast as possible and unapologetic about it. I kind of like the bold attitude. If you are after something else, shoot with something else, because these are something else. So who and what are the Zone for? I can hear you already scream in the comments, just light your scene, or Tony, too much bokeh, and of course all of that is true. Still, I can think of so many examples where it makes sense and where it does look good. Barry Lyndon and Oppenheimer being just two. That doesn't mean everything should have ridiculously shallow depth of field. Army of the Dead is a cautioning tale of what happens if your iris gets stuck at T1, but if it hits right, it hits. I'm happy to discuss with you in the comments, and even when you say yes and amen to everything, please drop us a comment anyways. Because it helps us with the algorithm, and that allows us to make better content for you. And while you're at it, leave us a like if you think that we deserve one. I will wait until you're done. Meanwhile, let me thank those who made this episode possible. I want to thank Frederick Pelzer for his highly professional work on set and for shooting behind-the-scenes material on location. Of course, his impersonation of the Moth is stuff for legends. Well done, Mothman. I also want to thank Max Heinemann for being our talent one more time, and of course for helping setting up and down everything and carrying around our gear. It is just great to have a crew like you at midnight in the Witch Forest. I sure as hell wouldn't want to be there alone. Many thanks to Zhongyi for letting us test the Zone T1 Cineprimes. We wish them luck with their Indiegogo campaign. Please show them some love and have a look if you're interested. You'll find a link in the description. Of course, and like always, our hearts go out to the members of this channel who make production of this level possible. In such a narrow field of interest, the ad views will never ever be enough to cover our cost, let alone feed our kids. So if you think that content like this should exist, please consider becoming a member yourself. We have interesting perks like action packs with LUTs and project files waiting for you. The join button is right under this video next to the channel name. Thank you so much. My name is Nicholas, signing out with nerdlicious wishes. Shoot something amazing.